The coastal town of Havenport, where the sea keeps secrets and love is as unpredictable as the tide, two souls once collided and created a passion neither could ignore. Rina Valles, a fiercely independent wedding florist with a tragic romantic past, never believed she'd fall again until she met Caleb Dwyer, a kind-hearted school counselor with deep eyes and even deeper wounds. Their love story wasn't a whirlwind. It was a slow-burning flame that promised warmth, not wildfire. But one mistake, one secret withheld, was all it took to poison what they built. When jealousy grows like a weed and silence becomes louder than betrayal, can love survive the thorns? As Rina uncovers the truth about Caleb's connection to a woman from his past, trust crumbles. And just when she thinks she knows the whole story, a twist of fate forces her to question everything, even her own heart. What if forgiveness isn't about forgetting the betrayal, but rediscovering the love that once made it all worth risking? In this story, love is raw, fragile, and messy, and it just might be strong enough to rise from the ruins. Rina and Caleb's love begins with mutual understanding and emotional support, but as their connection deepens, so do the shadows around them. Rina struggles with trust. She's emotionally scarred and constantly second-guessing whether love will end in betrayal. She's terrified of vulnerability. Caleb is emotionally torn between moving forward and honoring the past. His continued relationship with his late wife's family blurs emotional lines, especially when Lila, his sister-in-law, leans on him for more than just family support.
As we dive deeper into the heart of the story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share your thoughts in the comments section below. And remember to turn on the notification bell, so you're the first to know whenever we release new content.
Rina discovers Caleb has been secretly helping Lila through financial troubles. Lila, who has always been cold to Rina. It appears to be emotional infidelity. Worse, Rina suspects there may have been something more. The emotional powder keg is lit when Rina sees a photo of Caleb and Lila together, late at night, embracing. Caleb insists it's innocent, but is it? They meet at a grief support gathering, where Rina gives a talk on healing through creative expression. Caleb is in the audience. Afterward, he approaches her, not with flirtation, but with admiration. He commissions flowers for a memorial garden at his school. Their first few meetings are filled with tension and cautious admiration. Rina begins to open up as Caleb shows consistent care, remembering her coffee order, showing up at her flower shop during rainy nights just to check on the roses. They share their deepest losses. Caleb tells her about Naomi. Rina shows him the garden she made for her broken heart. They fall into something soft and slow. Rina stumbles upon a message on Caleb's phone. "Thank you for last night. I needed that." The initials trigger suspicion. She confronts Caleb, who admits Lila was struggling and he took her out to talk, but he left out the details. His omission, not the truth, creates cracks in their foundation. Lila begins showing up unannounced. Rina feels displaced, like a shadow in Caleb's unresolved past. Her emotions spiral. She starts distancing herself. Caleb, sensing this, becomes withdrawn. Neither wants to admit they're afraid the other might leave first. At a school fundraiser, Rina spots Lila caressing Caleb's hand in what seems like an intimate gesture. A confrontation ensues. Lila admits, in front of Rina, that she once thought Caleb might love her, but he turned her down. Caleb never told Rina because he didn't want to hurt her. Rina feels betrayed, not because Caleb cheated, but because he let her live in uncertainty. Rina ends things. She moves out of their shared cottage and refuses contact. Caleb is devastated but respects her space. He writes her a letter explaining everything, but never sends it. As the weeks go by, Rina throws herself into her work, trying to forget him. But Caleb's absence is louder than his presence ever was. She finds the box of unsent letters Caleb wrote to Naomi and realizes he's never let himself fully grieve. Meanwhile, Caleb finally lets go of the past. He burns the letters, not in anger, but in closure. Rina learns that vulnerability is not weakness. Her fear of betrayal blinded her from seeing Caleb's pain. Caleb realizes that silence, even when meant to protect, can be the cruelest betrayal. A twist hits when Rina discovers she's pregnant, but isn't sure if she should tell him. Just as she's about to send him a letter saying goodbye forever, she collapses from exhaustion. Caleb, called by one of her friends, rushes to the hospital, panicked, breathless. He never stopped loving her. At the hospital, truths unravel. Rina tells him about the baby. Caleb, eyes glassy, doesn't flinch. Instead, he falls to his knees and confesses that he's been writing her a new set of letters, ones he hoped to give her if she ever came back. She asks him why he never gave up. He says, because love doesn't disappear with a mistake. It disappears when you stop fighting for it. They embrace, not in a fiery kiss, but in the quiet kind of love that feels earned. They start over, not with promises of perfection, but of transparency. Rina returns to her shop. Caleb helps her set up a forgiveness garden, where broken-hearted lovers plant flowers in memory of the love they chose to save. The story ends with them walking through the garden, Rina's hand resting on her baby bump, Caleb holding her other hand, and a placard that reads, "It taps into universally relatable themes, feelings everyone has experienced. Jealousy is visceral, forgiveness is profound." This combo offers emotional highs and lows that hook romance fans and keep them invested in the emotional growth of the characters. At a community grief support event in a quaint church hall draped with dusty curtains and mismatched chairs, Rina Valles stands in front of a quiet crowd. She's not a natural public speaker, but her hands flutter with grace as she speaks about healing through creation. She talks about her first love, about betrayal, about how pruning dead petals doesn't mean the flower failed to bloom. It just means it's still alive. In the back row sits Caleb Dwyer, leaning forward, arms resting on his knees, eyes heavy with something deeper than just interest. Afterward, he approaches, not with a flirtatious line, but a simple question: "Do you think some grief lasts a lifetime, even if love wants to return?" Caleb hires Rina to redesign the flower garden at the high school where he works. They start meeting weekly, casual at first. Conversations revolve around soil quality and flower symbolism. He listens to her explain that white peonies mean regret, that lavender soothes the soul. She listens to him talk about the troubled teens he helps, how sometimes love fails them before life even begins. They laugh once, then twice, then every time. But there's an invisible third presence in every room: Naomi, Caleb's late wife. Her name isn't spoken often, but it hangs heavy in pauses, in the way Caleb's voice breaks when he talks about the accident. Still, it's not sadness that unsettles Rina. It's Lila, Naomi's sister, who calls Caleb late at night, who shows up during their walks, who clearly doesn't like Rina. And Rina, wounded but perceptive, feels the unspoken truth creeping closer. At Caleb's apartment, Rina forgets her sketchbook and returns to find his phone buzzing. On the screen, "Lila, thanks for last night. I needed that. You always know what to say." Rina reads the message again, then again. The walls of her trust start to crumble, not from what she knows, but from what she doesn't. When she confronts Caleb, he explains, "Yes, I saw her. She was having a breakdown. She thought she might lose her job. I stayed to talk." "But you didn't tell me," Rina replies. "You looked me in the eye and said nothing happened this weekend." Caleb stares at her, silent. He had meant to tell her. He just didn't know how. Rina leaves, not in rage, but in silence. And that silence is worse than shouting. Rina spirals. Her past returns like a storm, memories of her cheating ex-fiancé, the betrayal, the silence. She starts avoiding Caleb, cancels meetings, stops replying. Caleb tries. He writes a letter, deletes a voicemail, leaves a bouquet of her favorite blush roses with a note that simply says, but the real blow lands at the school's spring fundraiser. Lila arrives, uninvited. She clings to Caleb's arm, laughs a little too loudly, and when Rina walks in, wearing the soft yellow dress Caleb once said made her look like summer, she sees them. Lila leans in, touches his hand. The gesture is slow, possessive. Rina's world narrows to one thought: he never chose me. Rina storms out. Caleb follows. Rain pours. "Of course it does. Tell me it didn't mean anything," she says, choking on every syllable. Caleb replies, "It didn't. I never." Lila was trying to hold on to the last piece of Naomi she had left. "And I let her, because I didn't know how to say goodbye to Naomi without losing her too." Rina's voice cracks. "You didn't just lie. You let me live with the doubt. That's worse." Lila joins them, uninvited, and drops the final blow. "I was in love with him, but he never wanted me. He only ever talked about you. He just didn't know how to stop feeling guilty for surviving." Rina's breath hitches. In that moment, everything shifts. Rina disappears. She closes her shop. Her phone dies for 3 days. She doesn't cry until she finds Caleb's letter in her jacket pocket. "If you're reading this, it means I failed to say what mattered most. I loved Naomi, but I'm not in love with her anymore. You taught me that love doesn't replace, it expands. I'm terrified of breaking your heart because it's already so delicate. But I swear, I never touched her hand to forget you. I was just too much of a coward to say it sooner. I love you, Rina. And I'll wait." She clutches the letter to her chest. Then a wave of nausea hits her. She takes a test, then another. Positive. Rina's best friend calls Caleb. "Something's wrong." She collapsed. Caleb sprints into the hospital, soaked in sweat, panic in his veins. Rina lies pale, for dripping. He brushes hair from her forehead. I'm okay, she whispers. You're pregnant, he says softly. She nods. Caleb falls to his knees beside her bed. Tell me what you need. I needed you to fight for me, she says, even when I pushed you away. I'm here now, he replies. Not as your past, as your future. Months later, Petal and Promise reopens. In the backyard is a new section, the forgiveness garden. Couples come and plant flowers with tags bearing their stories. Cheated, but stayed, loved again after loss, forgave my father, told her the truth too late. At the center is a tree. Underneath it, Rina and Caleb stand with their newborn daughter, Nael, named from a blend of Naomi and Rina, honoring the past without living in it. They look at the garden. They hold hands. And Caleb says, I don't want perfect love. I want real love, the kind that survives a storm. Rina smiles through tears. You already have it. She wasn't looking for love. He wasn't ready for it. But fate doesn't wait for the perfect time to break your heart wide open. We meet Rina Valles, a reserved floral designer with a fragile heart, speaking at a grief recovery meeting. Caleb Dwyer, a high school counselor still mourning his late wife, is in the audience, drawn to her without understanding why. Caleb asks Rina to design the school's memorial garden, and she hesitantly agrees. Subtle attraction blooms, but both carry shadows from the past. As Rina locks up her shop, she sees Caleb talking to a mysterious woman across the street. Her hand lingers too long on his arm. Rina learns the woman is Lila, Caleb's former sister-in-law. Flashbacks reveal Caleb's intense loyalty to his late wife, Naomi, and his blurred emotional lines with Lila. Rina's past trauma resurfaces. Flashbacks of being cheated on by her ex-fiancé deepen her fears. She begins distancing herself emotionally. Rina discovers a text from Lila on Caleb's phone. Thanks for last night. You always know how to make me feel seen. Rina confronts Caleb. He admits Lila leaned on him during a rough time but insists nothing physical happened. Rina wants to believe him, but doubt poisons her. Caleb tries to make things right, handwritten notes, surprise garden visits, but she avoids him. Meanwhile, Lila keeps appearing, possessive, sharp, and always watching. At a public fundraiser, Lila clings to Caleb's arm in front of Rina, and smiles directly at her. The worst kind of heartbreak isn't betrayal. It's silence where truth should have been. Rina confronts Caleb again, this time in the rain. The setting mirrors the emotional storm brewing between them. Lila steps in, revealing her secret. She was in love with Caleb. But he never reciprocated. Caleb explains he stayed close to her for Naomi's memory, not love. Rina walks away, heartbroken, not just from the lie, but from not being fought for. Days later, Rina finds Caleb's old, unread letter in her jacket, the one where he says he loves her. She had already lost her heart. She didn't know she might lose something more. Rina isolates herself. Her best friend visits and finds her pale, anxious. A hospital visit reveals Rina is pregnant, with Caleb's baby. Her emotions spiral. Does she tell him? Can she trust him? Her best friend makes the call Caleb never expected. Caleb enters the hospital room, breathless, as Rina whispers, I'm okay, but I'm not alone. Sometimes, the most powerful I love you is. I'm not leaving. Caleb finally opens up, about Naomi, Lila, the guilt, the truth. Rina breaks down, not from anger, but relief. Someone finally stayed. They begin slow healing, attending counseling together and talking through their fears. Caleb proposes a name for the child, Nael, a blend of Naomi and Rina, a symbol of past and future coexisting. Caleb kneels, not to propose, but to apologize fully. Rina looks away, and says, then prove it. Forgiveness doesn't erase pain. It plants over it, so love can grow again. Months later, Rina opens the forgiveness garden behind her flower shop. Couples from all over plant flowers with their stories, betrayal, grief, second chances. Caleb and Rina, holding baby Nael, plant a tree. Underneath it is a plaque, for all the times we almost didn't make it. They host a small gathering, silent vows exchanged, not with rings, but with roots. Caleb leans in. You didn't just heal me, Rina. You gave me something worth breaking for. She replies, smiling through tears, and you gave me a reason to trust again. Some say grief makes people bitter. Others say it makes them wise. But Rina Valles? She turned hers into beauty, petal by petal, bouquet by bouquet, trying to forget the man who left her for someone else, on their wedding week. Rina arranging flowers in her shop. She pauses to smell a pale pink rose, then quickly wipes away a tear before anyone sees. Healing isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's in silence. In planting a seed and waiting, not knowing if it'll bloom, but hoping. Caleb Dwyer didn't come to the meeting looking for comfort. He came because someone said it might help. But the moment Rina spoke, he heard something he hadn't in a long time, honesty without bitterness. He didn't know why he called her. Maybe it was the way she said carry it. Maybe it was the fact that he'd been carrying Naomi for 3 years, and no one had noticed. Hey. I've got this overgrown garden at the school. Thought it might be time to bring something new to life. Wide shot of a rundown garden behind a school. Weeds, cracked pavement, forgotten flowers. Rina surveys the space, then kneels down, brushing aside dirt, uncovering a single struggling tulip. She didn't know then that they were both just like that flower. Broken by seasons they didn't ask for, but still reaching for the light. Love, when it's real, doesn't knock. It walks in, barefoot, unannounced, and leaves its scent on everything. But even real love has to compete with ghosts. It wasn't love. Not from him. But when a man doesn't speak, he leaves room for others to write their own stories. Sometimes, love is loud, a grand confession, a passionate kiss, a desperate plea. But sometimes, love is in the silence we didn't listen to. The whispers we never thought to question. She didn't delete the message. She didn't respond either. Because trust, when cracked, doesn't shatter all at once. It crumbles. Slowly. Piece by fragile piece. If you're reading this, it means you've met him. And he's tried to love again. I want you to know. I wanted that for him. She wrote this for you. I didn't know it existed until today. Truth doesn't always come through arguments. Sometimes it arrives in envelopes. In words from the dead. And the ones left behind. Forgiveness is a strange gift. It doesn't come when someone says I'm sorry. It comes when your heart decides you're tired of bleeding. I know. I was afraid if I told the truth, you'd think I still lived in that house of ghosts. It wasn't an apology that saved them. It was honesty. And the choice to begin again. Forgiveness doesn't come with a warning. But manipulation? It always arrives dressed like hospitality. Some storms don't announce themselves with thunder. They whisper and leave you soaked in regret. You look beautiful. Caleb's always had a type, soft-spoken, thoughtful, naturally elegant. You know, the night Naomi died, she made me promise to look after him. I think part of her knew he couldn't let go. Rina, letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means making space for something new. Layla, smiling too sweet, but not everyone deserves that space, right? Some people just fill it temporarily. Caleb and I, we had a moment. It was grief. But it was also real. And I think he's just afraid to admit it. Rina, he already did admit it. And he said it was nothing. Lila, then maybe you're the one being lied to. The most dangerous kind of lie is the one that dances on the edge of truth. Rina. I'm sorry. I should have warned you. Lila isn't just grieving. She's rewriting. You know what I think, Lila? I think Naomi trusted you. And you've been using her absence to get closer to the one thing she loved most. Lila, you think I'd betray my own sister? Rina, you already did. She walks out. Lila's face darkens, not with sadness, but fury. It wasn't about jealousy anymore. It was about choosing who to believe. Even when believing hurt. There are some things we never mean to take to the grave. But when we do, they don't rest quietly. Rina sits at the table, still in her coat from the night before. A cup of untouched coffee steams in front of her. Caleb sits across from her, guilt written across his face. She wasn't always like this. Layla. After Naomi died, it's like she became someone else. Or maybe, she always was and I never saw it. She said you had a moment. That you kissed. That it was real. There was a moment. But it wasn't love. It was grief, Rina. It was like drowning and grabbing the closest thing, just to breathe. And you didn't think I deserved to know? I didn't want to lose you. Because of a mistake I already hate myself for. Layla. Been a long time. Lila, why now? Because the truth always comes crawling out. And this time, it's coming for you. If I don't make it, Caleb needs to know. It's in the journal. Page 36. She should have told him. But jealousy doesn't just want love. It wants exclusivity. You don't know me. Name's Dennis. I was Naomi's nurse. She told me to give this to her husband if anything happened. But Lila got to me first. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And I need you to forgive yourself. I know what happened with Lila. I saw it. But I also know your heart. What Lila never told you, is that she was the one who kissed you. And she did it while you were asleep. I didn't say anything because I knew she was grieving in her own way. But I also knew. She would never let you go if I didn't. You kissed me in my sleep? Lila doesn't answer at first. Then she smiles, coldly. Lila, you were always going to leave. I just wanted something before you did. You used Naomi's death. You used me. And you nearly destroyed the only person I've been able to love since her. Some betrayals break hearts. Others break chains. She was brave. To forgive both of you. Braver than I've been. You're brave in your own way. You stayed even when it hurt. And you're still standing. Rina, so what do we do now? We let the past bury itself. And we grow something new.